just like that, it's time for our weekly roundup of all the things Lady just ain't gonna do this week. Number 1, climate catastrophes in Florida and the Carolinas. Now, y'all, honestly, we are killing ourselves and each other by not addressing the devastating impacts of climate change and forcing the people who represent us to do more and invest more. This week, Hurricane Ian devastated the Gulf Coast of Florida and then wreaked havoc on the Carolinas and is considered to be one of the strongest storms to ever hit the U.S. mainland. So what made it so strong? Well, of course, the warming of the Atlantic Ocean, which is warmer than it's ever been. As of this writing, there have been 85 confirmed deaths, 81 of which are from Florida. Now, more than half of these fatalities occurred in coastal Lee County. Estimates for the damage sustained from wind, storm surges, and flooding are estimated to be between $42 and $57 billion. Now, nearly 4 million people in Florida were without power as a result of the storm. And as of earlier this week, there were still nearly 600,000 people and businesses without power. 1.1 million homes and businesses in North Carolina and South Carolina were without power over the weekend, though most had been restored by the time of this writing. Now, my sister Andrea Cristina Mercado, who runs a statewide organization called the Florida New Majority, put me on to a community fund that is moving money to grassroots organizations that are supporting with relief efforts and organizing communities for a just recovery. It's called ianresponse.org, IANRESPONSE.org. So please go there and give your support. Again, it's ianresponse.org. In any case, I want to talk here about how the strength of these storms and their devastation is actually in our control. And yet we are not taking some of the most bold action on climate change that we fucking need to. We're acting like this isn't here right now and creating extreme catastrophes, stronger, deadlier storms due to warming, and then additional vulnerabilities we have due to weakened infrastructure that's basically being held hostage by political bullshit. We need climate resiliency plans, yes, but also, we need to stop burning fossil fuels, which is warming the planet, period. Now, here's what we want more of this week, though. Number 1, uprisings in Iran, led by, of course, women. Now, Lady shared a video about this on her Instagram earlier in the week, but I want to reiterate my gratitude for the seriously thousands of people who reached out to me asking to help spread the word about 22-year-old Mahsa Amini, a young woman who died while in custody of the morality police. Now, what is the morality police, you ask? Well, the morality police is a special police force in Iran that is tasked with enforcing strict dress codes for women, including the wearing of the hijab. She was in police custody because of what authorities there called an improper wearing of the hijab, and she did not leave police custody alive. Witnesses allege that Amini was beaten to death by the morality police. Now, this has kicked off protests across the country that are led predominantly by women. As happens here in the United States, these protests have been characterized as women fighting back against the hijab or about growing tensions about the economy. But from what I can tell, this seems to miss the mark and fails to capture the spirit of these protests, as protesters themselves are saying now and have been saying apparently for weeks. These protests aren't about the hijab. They're about ending state violence, supporting body autonomy, and pushing for self-determination and freedom from dictatorship. Even though earlier this year, farmers, teachers, and middle-class professionals apparently took to the streets protesting the economy and calling for better economic policy. Now, protests have been happening in Tehran for the better part of 2 weeks, and we are barely getting any news whatsoever about it in the United States. I mean, shit, we talked about the damn queen for a fucking month, but yet it's a blip here in the US about Iran. So look, y'all, I watch CNN and MSNBC every day, multiple times a day, and I've really not heard that much about this. So in any case, the protests that have spread across much of the country are women-led and are fighting back against the media blackout in their own country, as well as ours. I have, as I said, received thousands of messages asking us to be their voice here in the United States so that people will know what's going on. And I am and have been spending my time getting educated about what's happening, who's involved, and what's at stake. Now, just recently, these protests have spread to universities, with young women burning their hijabs, cutting their hair, and chanting women, life, freedom. According to CNN, there have been over 450 people injured in the protests thus far. Last week at the UN General Assembly, President Joe Biden also weighed in on the protests, saying, "Today we stand with the brave citizens and the brave women of Iran who are right now demonstrating to secure their basic rights." Now, meanwhile, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, denied that Mahsa Amini was killed in police custody, and instead says that she fell victim to her own poor health. He blamed the protest on the United States and Israel, calling the unrest planned. Now, the government there, in response to the protests, have intermittently blocked access to social media and the internet. Protests are escalating there in more than 90 towns and cities, and police violence is also escalating. We're going to keep sharing this with you so we can learn together, and in the meantime, let's stand with the people of Iran. Keep spreading the word about Mahsa Amini and the feminist-led protests that are taking Iran by storm. Welcome back to Ladies Love Notes, where we give you all of the real about being newly single and dating in your 40s. Now, Lady has absolutely been loving each and every one of your questions. And please, don't forget, you can submit your questions on love, relationships, situationships, and whatever else you got on your mind. We will bring them on the show and discuss. Now, this week's question comes from Morgan, who asks, "Do you think the narrative about Black women being single needs to change? Sometimes we are socialized to believe we need to be married or we are lost and depressed without it. But honestly, I don't even know what I want anymore because I don't know my own wants versus the socialization of what I should want. Honestly, I'm trying to meet my own needs as well." First of all, Morgan, thank you. Lady appreciates you and your question so much, especially because I am in full agreement with you that hell yes, the narrative needs to change. And there's so many parts of the narrative that need to change that it's difficult to choose just one place to start. Look, I get it and I'm with you. There is so much pressure out there to find a partner. So much. Honestly, it's exhausting. And as a newly-ish single woman in her 40s, and I say newly-ish because even though it's been over a year that I've been single, I was in a relationship for 17 years. And so being single in my grown-ass womanhood is really, really new to me. I actually haven't dated since I was in my 20s. Now, you do the math, honey. Even a feminist broad like me succumbs to the pressure to find a partner because happiness is partnership, right? Now, I'll be honest with you. When I first became single, I was both relieved and also scared as fuck. Confused, like, who am I not in a partnership? I realized I'd been in relationships literally my whole life. I cannot remember being single for longer than maybe a couple of months. I'm what they call a serial monogamist, which means I have been up in some shit my whole entire life. And as I was unpacking with my therapist this week, it's probably how I learned to be in relationships that's the most damaging of all. Learning that relationships are about taking care of other people rather than also being taken care of and having your needs met. In every relationship I've been in, I have taken care of someone else. And often, though not always, someone who had some real shit to be taken care of. So listen, being single for this Black woman has been about redefining relationships, and most importantly, my relationship with myself. And I am better for it, trust and believe. I swear to you, I have not regretted 1 minute of not having someone in my life I'm taking care of who ain't taking care of me. You heard? So, Morgan, go forth on your journey, beloved. Get to know what you want and what's good for you. All that other shit ain't going nowhere, I promise you. And honestly, when you strengthen the relationship with yourself, you'll bring more to the table with someone else, if you even want to.